Hello, one and all. Jasper here, joined as always by DJ Fella, here to tackle the 5th episode of the 2nd season in Hot D, Regent.
Let's get right into it.
Yep. This is definitely, obviously, I don't want to say it's a filler episode, but after coming off such an action-packed episode with the 4th episode that had the siege and battle over Rook's Rest and whatnot, this one is kind of seeing the fallout from such a battle, as well as building up for the future events that are to come. And I think it does its job well enough, but there are repeating issues that we've had with previous episodes that are continuing from this.
I do worry that we will begin to sound like broken records.
I mean, to be fair, if the show's broken, I think we have a pretty good excuse in being broken as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the show has been consistently broken in a lot of the same ways the whole season. So it's tough to bring up new complaints when, like, there are so many just fundamental issues that keep presenting themselves throughout the series.
Well, I think that's part of the plan. Once we become numb to these reoccurring issues, then there's less to complain about. And suddenly, as the seasons get better, because we're just accepting of the bullshit that's been coming from it.
I'll never accept it.
But anyways, getting into the episode, we actually start off over at Driftmark, where we see Corlys Velaryon kind of walking towards his throne, clearly mourning the death of Rhaenys.
Mm-hmm.
And I might be wrong about this, and I think like us talking about how the female characters have been presented and whatnot, is it just me or is it like the guys who show like the most emotion when loss takes place?
That is a fair point.
Because I was thinking back to like instances where female characters lost. The first one that came to mind was Helena with her kid, and obviously no emotion there. Alicent, grandson, dies, nothing from her as well. The only exception would probably be Rhaenyra at the end of the final season, after the end of the first season, where Luke dies.
But yeah, Rhaenyra did mourn pretty proper. And she also has been like carrying trauma from Luke's death throughout this season. So I think they have had Rhaenyra act at least somewhat motherly in that regard. But there's definitely been a lack. I think it's probably just a little bit of fallout from the whole girl boss epidemic that we had, where it's like a strong female character basically embodies all the toxic masculinity, but then also men aren't allowed to be emotionally distant and strong anymore. They have to be, extremely emotional. I don't want to necessarily say weak, because I don't think like Corlys is supposed to be depicted as weak here.
Oh no.
This episode, but it just feels like a little bit of fallout. Like it's not as bad as a lot of media had been in the past decade, but it still has elements of it.
Well, let's also keep in mind, even in regards to Rhaenys and how she kind of dealt with Luke's death, she was very stern and angry. Like no tears, no sadness that we really see. Just anger, which, not saying that's bad, but now we have Corlys here, who's like when you compare it to like, I would say the most obvious like male signs of emotional distress, you have Aegon, who is furious, screaming and weeping almost as he smashed out, the little set that Viserys built. And now we have Corlys on his throne, and you see tears in his eyes welling up, which, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Corlys or the casting of Corlys, but I will say the actor is doing a really good job in this particular scene in showing the just depressing sadness of losing the love of his life.
Yeah, I do think I think we talked about this in the first season as well. Like, he is a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not his fault Sorry, Jesus Christ, the guy just plugged the cable to my fucking headphones. Ripped my goddamn head off.
That's why you should have gotten a dog. Panda Man's over here being super polite.
You're absolutely correct. Dogs are better than cats. But yeah, I think the actor for Corlys he's a great actor. It's just it's not in the role he should be in.
Mm-hmm. Also, and I want to make this clear, I think all the actors, there are a few exceptions, like the teenage actor for Leonor. I don't know why the fuck they have him. But all the actors themselves are very talented people. I think it's mainly the writing that is just screwing them over so much, and there's just nothing they can do.
Yeah, I would agree. I can't, off the top of my head, think of a situation where the acting was the aspect that took me out of it.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, getting a little off tangent there. We get a nice scene where Corlys is mourning the loss of his wife. It then cuts over to Rhaenyra, who I'm assuming is mourning in her own way, but trying to kind of keep her composure throughout it.
Yeah, Rhaenyra throughout this episode still kind of bothers me.
I don't think that's going to change throughout the entire series.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit obnoxious how whiny she is, despite the fact that she does have authority.
But with that, the next scene we have in King's Landing. We see a little bit of how the small folk of King's Landing seeming to be running out of food due to the blockade of the sea snake. And now they start to parade Meleys' head throughout the city to kind of show off their victory.
Yeah, which this is one situation where I'm not entirely convinced that the people's reaction would be the way it is depicted in the show. I understand the reasoning behind it of the people wouldn't see this as a great victory. They would see this as times a bad omen of the war to come. But also I feel like there would be that gut reaction in a crowd where it's just like hell yeah, that's a victory for our team.
Yeah, I mean, you're still presenting the head of an enemy dragon. It's not like they're parading Sunfire's messed up body or anything.
Right, it's still very much a victory, and the people knew that they were going. I feel like it might be some of the fallout of the show writers seem to really want to convince us that war was preventable long after it wasn't preventable.
Yeah.
Where it's the people, as far as the people concerned, they've been at war.
Yeah.
This dragon isn't the start of something. It just is a victory.
I think that there is some justification to it. For starters, in the show continuity, obviously these people are starting to run out of food and going hungry. And I think seeing the dragon head, it's not the straw that broke the camel's back, but the bowling ball. I think it's just a lot of the issues they're going through, and now they see the dragon head. And I think there's a part of it where you can make the argument that seeing a dragon's head up close like this can, even if it's dead, gives you an idea of the beasts that are going to be partaking in this war. And then you make the conclusion that King's Landing will most likely have to be some sort of battleground for these monsters.
Maybe so. Like I said, I can see the show's justification for it, and it seems plausible to me, but I still think that there would be a generally positive reaction.
Yeah, and I think that's perfect. I think that's perfectly fair as well, because you see the enemy being brought before you, and, that's good. This war, your team is, by all accounts, winning.
Yeah. Well, as far as they're telling you. They're not telling you that the king almost died and his dragon died.
Well, actually, so since they actually say it in this episode, I'll just tell you, Sunfire is actually still alive.
I thought they said. I mean, they did say Sunfire was still at the castle they took.
Yes,
but I thought they said like they didn't say Sunfire was dead, but they said Sunfire was dying.
Yes, but Sunfire is still technically alive. It's just so crippled that it can't really move.
Oh, it's dead.
It's
If you have a nuclear warhead that can't launch, it's not a nuclear warhead.
Listen,
it's just
are you just saying? Listen, the theme I'm getting here, and maybe I'm just misinterpreting you, but it sounds like you think all cripples should die.
Whoa. I might have been implying that, but you don't have to say it explicitly like that.
But anyways, and then they keep they also keep cutting to the carts to kind of let us know Aegon's in there.
Yeah, which I didn't get that
at first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, what's up with this? Because they were cutting from like the cart that I assume Rhaenys' body is in, and then they were also showing this cart. Or are those the same carts?
I think it's the same cart every time.
Because the cart out in the streets has like blinkers over it.
Hold on. So let me go back a little bit. So we see the head. They're patrolling it. We even see Hugh the Hammer exploring and seeing the head as well.
Mm-hmm. We see the cart out in the streets, and it's got like blankets and stuff. I mean, I guess they probably just had him covered up and then took the blankets off.
Yeah,
I don't know. Because like Aemon is up here. I would assume. I mean, I guess they didn't. I would have assumed they would have like loaded Aegon onto Vhagar and flown him back or something.
Yeah,
helicopter evac.
Yeah, getting him over as quickly as possible. You could make the argument that maybe due to Aegon's injuries, riding on Vhagar might be too dangerous and damaging.
Yeah, I could see that.
I could see that, but also you presumably want to get him medical attention as soon as possible.
Yeah, because they're doing like the very start of first aid when he gets here.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just removing his armor and stuff. So, I mean, if he was just riding in a carriage in that state the whole time, he's dead. Bella's dead. I don't know how far they were by horse, but it must have been a few hours at least, right?
So it was about 300 miles, if I remember correctly.
300 miles?
Yeah, and a horse on average can travel probably 30 miles a day. And that's like presuming one rider. If you're like an army marching in formation, it'll probably be a lot slower.
Horse-drawn, according to Google AI overview, horse-drawn carriages typically travel from 4 to 12 miles per hour.
Yeah, I just did horse, and even with a horse, that's not the best odds.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Aegon is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Rest in peace. So far this season, Rhaenyra is dead. She died when she went to the castle. And now Aegon is also dead. So both of the like main, players, both of the people who are like have the most direct claim to the throne are dead.
Yeah,
so he's killed them.
Aegon literally and Rhaenyra figuratively. Yeah, this is actually something that happens in the book because I think it's mentioned that Aegon was brought in kind of on a cart, hidden in the same manner as well.
But again, it wouldn't be as big an issue if they didn't show him like receiving basic first aid upon arriving.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying that to defend the scene. I'm saying that in criticizing the book as well. Yeah,
but I would say that, I mean, I haven't read the book, obviously, but from what you just said, the book wasn't as bad.
Oh, no, the book's better than the show, hands down. But the book gets a lot of leniency because of how broad it is. So, so you can like kind of fill it pretty much, it makes you a writer as you fill in like some of the gaps here and there. And sometimes it's a choose your own adventure. Like, ooh, some people said this, some people said this. Which one do you like?
Yeah, and well, I give the books a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because I do trust George to write at least like a logically consistent story. So
yeah, I mean, George has proven to be far, far more talented than the writers of this show.
Yeah.
Eventually, we kind of make it to King's Landing, not King's Landing, the Red Keep specifically, and we get to see them start finally addressing Aegon's injuries and wounds. And I'm trying to kind of take a look at it, and I think you're right. It doesn't appear like any battlefield. Yeah, any battlefield first aid was applied.
And I mean, he's not in a state where battlefield first aid would even cover it. Like, he needed like some serious medical attention before he would be in a stable enough state to transport.
Mm-hmm. But at the very least, you could think like maybe they could have given him a splint.
Yeah, but they didn't give him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They like nothing was done at all.
Nothing was done at all. Yeah, so that's dumb.
It's a little silly.
But what are you gonna do? You know, it's impossible to write a show that's just consistently logical and coherent.
I mean,
that's not possible. Nobody can do it.
I mean, I'll be honest. With all the other shit we've been given, this is the least egregious thing for me so far.
Yeah, there was a point in this show where it was death by 1,000 cuts, but we are beyond that point. It is no longer death by 1,000 cuts. It has been decapitated a couple of times now.
Yep. And with Aegon being brought in, not a whole lot happens, but we eventually cut back over to... Oh, this is Kristen cleaning his sword with a lemon.
And salt.
I feel like that has to be a real thing. Like,
it makes sense. Like, lemons are acidic. And so I could see the acid being good for like cleaning the blood off. And then the salt probably adds some abrasion. Goddamn cat.
So yeah.
Cat. Get the fuck out from... Hold on.
So just looking it up right now, the first thing that comes up is a video, how to remove rust from a knife with lemon and salt.
I'm back.
Oh.
Cat has been solved.
Yeah. All I did look it up real fast, and the first video is how to remove rust from a blade or from a knife with lemon and salt. So I guess that's what he's doing.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess if the primary purpose of it is to remove rust, then in theory a well-maintained blade wouldn't need that.
Most likely. Anyways.
But whatever. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, fun little learning fact.
Yeah.
Then we have a little bit of back and forth between Cole and Alicent. And it seems to me that what this scene is telling us is that Alicent clearly thinks something happened. Like,
yeah, she clearly thinks Aemond is
guilty.
Complicit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say guilty, but complicit in the injuries to Aegon. And Cole basically confirms her suspicion with his silence.
Right. Which, I mean, like, overall, I think this scene was handled very well, as Cole he lays out, how many men were lost, all the, that information, but right when Aemond is brought up. Couldn't say. Hard, chaos, battle, all that stuff.
I am kind of with Alicent in this episode, where I find Cole's allegiances extremely confusing.
Really?
Like, why is he suddenly so gung-ho with Aemond? Like, not suddenly this episode, but suddenly in the past few episodes. Like, he was perfectly happy being like Alicent's little boy toy. And all of a sudden now he's like, Aemond's my homie.
I mean, I think it comes down to a few things. First off, Aemond and Cole are both debatably the best fighters in the realm at this point. So I think there's, and also Cole trained him through his entire life. So I think
that is something that they didn't. Did they? I don't remember them really showing that much.
Well, that was mostly in the first season. You see Cole training all the boys, showing favoritism towards the green kids, as well as him sparring with Aemond as an adult, and Aemond actually besting him.
You know what? I do remember that now that you mention it.
Yeah, and so there's that aspect. I think there's also the aspect of Aemond, whatever faults you may have with him, I would say that he's probably fairly competent when it comes to the idea of battles and warfare.
For sure.
And so
so I guess my impression was that Cole's favoritism towards or like of the green kids was a result of his relationship with Alicent. I mean, in season 1, not the sexual relationship, but they'd been plotting together. And then in season 2, they had like an explicitly sexual relationship. So for Cole to just suddenly be like, "Fuck you, Alicent, you dumb gash,"
I don't quite think it's to that extent. But I think we can talk more about this in a later scene between Alicent and Cole. Because now, right after Kristen pretty much confirms, like, yeah, Aemond did some shit, we're back over at Dragonstone, where the council is pretty much saying, well, that was a fuck up.
Yeah. I mean, they start with, correct line of, our largest dragon has been killed.
I mean, quote unquote correct.
So, I can save that for the end of the episode. So yeah, the largest dragon that has been ridden is killed.
Yeah,
it's currently up riding as a rider.
Yeah, I mean, I could make the argument that Caraxes is actually bigger, but they're so close in age that, it could go either way.
What about Vermithor?
Vermithor's bigger.
Wait, who's Caraxes?
Caraxes is Daemon's dragon.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like, we don't know when either of these dragons were born. We just know that the earliest mention of Caraxes is 72, and the earliest mention of Meles is 75.
Huh. Because I guess Daemon just ages well.
Caraxes, Daemon's not the only person who rode Caraxes. Caraxes has had more than one dragon rider. So yeah, Daemon's not that old.
Fair enough. So yeah, the council's throwing mad shade at Rhaenyra, which perfectly justified. I mean, probably not for this situation necessarily. I think sending Rhaenys to that fight was the best choice. You could very persuasively argue that more than one dragon should have gone, but if one dragon was going, Rhaenys is the correct choice.
Yeah, if only one is going, Rhaenys was the best choice. And to be fair to Rhaenyra, she was more than willing to go herself, which the council was right for her not to go herself per se, but if she had gone with Rhaenys, maybe?
Well, at least there would have been a second person there, so Vhagar couldn't cast invisibility and disappear.
Yeah, something like that. So, who knows how that fight would have gone. But, I think overall you can't be too critical about the final decision she made.
For sure.
Yeah, so this is probably the one time where we're not on the side of the council.
Yeah, but I am still mostly on the side of the council. And I hate that just to fucking make the council look stupid, they make it so their objection to Rhaenyra is just her gender. Like instead of the fact that she has consistently been making stupid decisions since coming to Dragonstone, instead of like having the council levy the various mistakes, the endless list of mistakes that Rhaenyra has made, they have whatever this guy's name is just be like, "You're a woman. You ever consider that you're a woman and suck?"
Yeah, and it doesn't work too well, especially because in this very show, people kept telling Aegon you can't go out and fight because it's too risky. So regardless if you're a guy or a girl, they don't want you out fighting if you're the king or queen.
Well, in this particular case, he's not criticizing her being a woman as far as for battle, more so just as far as leading the war effort. But yeah, it's just it seems weird for like a weird criticism for her council to level when they are supporting her to be queen. Like they clearly have put some trust in her ability to lead. So for them to just be like, "Oh, but you're a woman, so you shouldn't be in charge of the war," it just seems backwards to me. Whereas if they were like, "Since coming here, you've made nothing but bad decisions," I could understand that.
Yeah, like I think it would be best if we had both. Like, yes, it's medieval times, it's a patriarchal society, sexism is to be expected. But just because these guys are sexist doesn't mean they don't also have perfectly other legitimate reasons to not want Rhaenyra to go into battle or to make decisions. Because, granted, the previous, Rook's Rest was probably one of the best things you could do. You could tweak it here and there, but who knows how it would have happened one way or another. But her entire previous history before that has been mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. I'm not going to trust you with intelligent decisions when you thought it was a good idea to sneak into King's Landing.
Right, and it just seems weird to me that they would even bother to bring up her being a woman as a criticism when, like, they've already kind of, like, they're already too far in that camp. Like they are already supporting a queen to be in charge of the Seven Kingdoms or whatever, in charge of Westeros. So it's like even if that's how you feel, I feel like you wouldn't voice it.
You may have been a bit more tactful about it, because if you guys win, you don't want the queen to remember all the times you said, "Bitch, you can't do it, you're a woman."
Well, and it's like, yeah, it fundamentally undermines you supporting her in the war effort if you don't think that women are capable of leading. It's like, why are you even here?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that just seemed odd to me.
Yeah, and I think that's fair as well. But with that settled now, we can move on, and we get to see Jace and Bela having a little bit of not action, but interaction back and forth, as Jace is feeling annoyed with how he's being kept up, and he wants to do something that could affect and help in the war efforts. And his big decision is to go to the Riverlands and treat with the Freys, so that way when the Northern Army comes south, they'll have safe passage.
Which is smart.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like in the books, the Freys pretty much already agreed to be with the Blacks. So, this obviously didn't happen, but, it's not that big of a deal. It's not a groundbreaking change. It gives something for a character who I think we should have a bit more screen time with.
You didn't spoil anything just now. You didn't.
No.
But my brain is so huge and massive, my brain is so catastrophically large, that my deductive reasoning from what you just said might have created spoilers.
I think I know what you're thinking, and don't worry. It's not that. Because if that was to happen, why would I want development for him?
For who?
Jace.
We might be on completely different pages. I'm going to choose not to voice what my thoughts are right now, because I think that it is spoilers. I think that I'll probably forget about it here pretty soon.
Most likely. Maybe I'll ask you after the recording, but if I have no idea what you're thinking about it.
Okay, so yeah, Jace decides to be a man, which I've been really liking Jace these last couple of episodes.
Yeah, he's been nice. I enjoy his scenes. They're nothing too crazy. A lot of them is just kind of him with Bela, but you know, he also told his mom, "You stupid twat." But I mean, it's nice because he didn't get a whole lot in the first season, so it's nice that he's getting some in the second. I do wish it was just a bit more.
Yeah, he's between his scene with Rhaenyra when she comes back from King's Landing and his extremely tactful negotiation with the Freys. I'm like, maybe this guy should be in charge. Maybe they're right. Maybe men are just better.
But with that all squared away, we're now back in the Riverlands, and we see the Blackwoods with Daemon trading with the Brackens.
And he's not as good at negotiating as Jace is.
He's kind of garbage.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And, like, I mean, was I the only one who thought that right when the guy said we choose fire and started riding off, that Daemon was about to just fucking torch them all?
No, because the Blackwood guy, or the wait, which one's which?
So the Brackens are the guys who are against Daemon.
Yeah, so the Blackwood guy also thought that Daemon was going to torch him right
now. All right, but I gotta say, like, this is like, honestly, Daemon, just kill them, just burn them, and show off. Like, I know his whole argument is like, those are the kind of men I need. Like, if they switch sides, then they're not the men you need anymore. You get it?
Those are the men. They might be the kind of men you want, but they're fighting for the enemy.
Yeah, like, the only way you could probably get men like that, well, I mean, you know, the show goes into that a bit more, but, like, you have to defeat, like, you gotta take out the head, and then, like, when they surrender, then, but it's just stupid. Just, like, burn them, show the ferocity and power of the dragon, and that's another thing, he's always been perfectly willing to, like, threaten and be scary. But now he doesn't. He's just like...
Yeah, this did feel out of character for him. I personally thought. Which, I mean, I guess right now he is losing his mind literally. So maybe he can act a little out of character. I did think it was really funny, the, like, hard cut from them walking away to him sitting there being like, I didn't think they would be so eager to die.
But then he kind of cooks up a plan with the Blackwood, and
he does not cook up a plan. He does the same shit he did with Blood and Cheese, where he makes, like, vague, like, what's the word? He just makes vague kind of ideas. He puts vague ideas out there, and then just trusts that the person he's talking to is on the same page as him.
You might have a point, but he does say there are things the crown itself must not be seen to do. So that somewhat says that he knows that he wants the Blackwoods to do some heinous shit.
Right. But again, I feel like it's just like with Blood and Cheese, they go a little bit further than he was expecting them to go.
I don't know. I personally still think that Daemon fully told them, like, if you can't find Aemon, then just get us another son. Get Aegon or anyone else.
Yeah, that's true.
So
he might have been more explicit with Blood and Cheese.
I think he was a bit more explicit. But anyways, so that sets up that, and I got my issues with that, but we can talk about that once the River Lords show up, as now we're in the Vale. And we have Rhaena being a sassy bitch to her protector.
Is she supposed to be Bela's protector?
I mean, Rhaena shows up to the Vale And it's pretty much to keep her safe and out of the war, along with the princes and the baby dragons. And so, rightfully so, I feel, I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she's the regent of the Vale, because she's the mother of the son of the Lord, who's just too young to lead. And she's pissed, like, I was promised dragons, and I meant dragons that could keep us safe. Because as impenetrable as the Vale is, she makes it clear that dragons fuck shit up.
Yeah, it's the narrow path to get to the Vale doesn't do much good when you can fly.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
so it's a fair concern for her to have, and I fully understand why she would want a dragon. But it's also like everybody wants a dragon, bitch.
Oh yeah, but that was like one of the stipulations of her deal, and it's like Rhaena's pulling the whole like, if you read the fine print, you never said how big you wanted the dragon, and we brought 3 dragons or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. I understand. This is a for sure a situation where I understand both sides. Both sides are like getting screwed, kind of.
I'm very much on the side of the Vale in this case.
Right, but like she's perfectly within her rights to want a dragon. Well, I don't know that she is perfect. She presumably was promised a dragon, even if that was probably asking a little bit much. But also, like, they don't have a dragon to spare. They're in a war where dragons are like a hot commodity. Sending a dragon to just chill in the Vale would be crazy.
Mm-hmm. But for the most part, the scene finally ends with the Lady of the Vale saying, "My condolences for the death of your grandmother," walking off. And that's actually a thing. We don't really see Baela or Rhaena kind of mourn the loss of their grandmother. But I feel like since Corlys was the closest to Rhaenys, he's really the only one, the only one we had to see really be affected by the death in a big way.
Yeah, and Baela has that conversation with him later that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And then we're back over in Dragonstone where we get Rhaenyra.
So before we move on, is this bitch not gonna send soldiers? Is that the implication here?
I think it can be somewhat implied. I think right now the Vale is still in the process of mustering their armies. Like, the Vale is fairly well unified. It's not like the Riverlands where things are like very chaotic and every High Lord kind of makes his own decision. The Vale pretty much is one group, but it still takes time to like get all those guys together. I think it's like a little bit implied, and you could look into it, but I still think she's going through the process of getting the soldiers ready.
Right, but I wouldn't be surprised if she decided not to send soldiers now.
I mean, she's got perfectly good hostages in case she decides to go green.
Right.
But then that would, that would ruin guest rights. That's no bueno. We saw what happened with that in the original series.
Right. Yeah, no one would ever do that.
And then we're over with Rhaenyra and Missari back in Dragonstone. And
Rhaenyra is just bitching to Missari about how hard her life is.
Oh, poor baby. They ignore me because I keep making the stupidest decisions.
Yeah, I've done nothing but make terrible decisions this whole time. Why don't they trust me?
I mean, to be fair, there is one moment where, like, Missari says they betray their own smallness, which, shut the fuck up, bitch. But at least Rhaenyra responds with, in truth, I cannot fault them. But it's in the sense of, like, she knows she can't do what she wants because she's queen or something like that.
Yeah. The show very much thinks that Rhaenyra is girl bossing and the small counselor just holding her back.
I mean, that's the thing. What's frustrating for me about this is that it's again saying that Rhaenyra can't be strong unless she has many of the qualities of a man. It's just, you can be a strong character, a strong female character, without being a badass fighter. I haven't.
Yes, but I will say she is very much in a position where, I guess, quote unquote, strong or competent features would be masculine ones. Like if you're a leader in charge of a war effort, generally masculine features are what people are gonna hope for. And that's like there's a reason that's the case.
I get that, but like for example, I have an episode where I talk about female characters from the original Game of Thrones series and all the different strengths that they had despite not embodying so many masculine traits, at least in the original 4 seasons. And I'm worried. Like I'm okay with Rhaenyra getting a little more action, but I'm worried they're going to like try and make her a warrior queen when I don't think she needs that.
That's fair. I mean, she might need that if her dragon is needed in battle.
Well, a lot of it is just like, I feel like, and maybe I'm forgetting some, but a lot of the female characters, with maybe the only exception of Meleys and Alicent, they're badasses in a way. Like, you have Bela, who's a badass. You have Rhaenyra, who they're kind of trying to make a badass. It's just... And I can't comment on it because it's the next episode, but...
It is a weird situation where, like when they do a badass female fighter, and it's just like she's just really good at fighting for some reason and can like overpower men twice her size. Like that's always pretty much stupid. But if they're riding dragons, it would be silly not to have them ride dragons into battle just because they're women.
Yeah, I agree with that. My issue is that we have Rhaenys, who's a badass kind of female dragon fighter. We have Bela, who's most likely going to be the badass female fighting dragon rider. I kind of want Rhaenyra to, give her some fights because she's a dragon rider, but I just don't want her to just become like a fighter, Like let her fight, but don't make her a fighter, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I don't think that's how things are going to go.
That's what...
Like, at this point in the show, they could still write her as, like kind of coming into her own as, like, a competent leader and learning how to, like, deal with the men on the council and stuff like that. They could still write that thing, but I think it is gonna end up coming down to like she goes into battle on her dragon, and then everybody's like, "Oh, she's so cool. She's my queen."
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to get.
Yeah. Not to be pessimistic or anything.
I mean, these people have given me no reason to be optimistic.
Right.
Anyways, so now we're going kind of back and forth, and they start talking about the small folk over in King's Landing. And Visari pretty much convinces Rhaenyra that they need to help them.
Well, but, like, isn't the whole point of the blockade to not, like they are actively causing the problems for the small folk.
Yeah. But, like, that's the thing. At first, I was on board with what Misari was saying. Like, spread discontent. Have spies in there who talk in the bars, like it shows later, about, like, they're feasting on racks of lamb and whatnot while we all eat porridge and fish and are going hungry. Like, that's all well and good. But later on, when if I'm not mistaken, it's this episode where
You might be mistaken.
I might be mistaken.
The only thing we see from them this episode is the girl gets into King's Landing and then meets up with whoever.
You know what?
Meets up with the person in King's Landing.
You're right. Next time, I'm not going to watch them all at once.
Yeah, see? You're getting them all, they all fuse together.
You are...
Binging is the wrong way to consume TV shows. I'll stand by this.
You're not incorrect, though I still partially disagree.
So yeah, I will say in this episode, I don't remember anything about like them trying to help the people.
Okay.
My impression was that they were going to try and like strike up a little civil war or something.
Yeah, which that's the correct way of going about things. One of the reasons you're starving the city is for discontent and for them eventually to kind of rise against the people in King's Landing. Though a part of me just wants to kind of say, I don't know if I buy King's Landing running out of food. Because yes, you have the blockade, but King's Landing still has, all the land completely free.
Right.
You could bring
like all the crown lands and roads and stuff.
Yeah,
completely unblocked.
Yeah, so presumably you would still be able to get food in. Like, granted, it's not going to be as much.
Right, but to be fair, the people aren't like starving immediately. It's just like the economy's getting shitty and the poor are getting poorer and life's getting tougher, which I think is fair for like a port city. If it gets blockaded from ships, then the people are gonna suffer still.
Yeah. And actually, given to that, there's actually something I want to talk to a little bit about once we get back over to King's Landing. But sticking here in Dragonstone, we see Rhaenyra kind of bonding a little bit with Bela, and it's nice. They just kind of reminisce that word about Rhaenys. And remember when I was talking about, I don't recall, Bela kind of mourning for Rhaenys. This kind of makes me realize I need to shut the fuck up, because that's exactly what they're fucking doing here.
Yeah, until freaking Rhaenyra has to sour the whole emotional moment. But I'd be like, okay, now do me a favor, please.
I need you to go give this to your granddaddy.
Yeah, I was actually only being nice to you right now because I need something to eat.
But overall, I think that scene is okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I think splitting up them having like the emotional scene from her asking her to deliver the pin for the hand of the king. I think like maybe showing this scene a little bit earlier in the episode and then having her ask for a favor.
Yeah.
Now would maybe flow a little bit better. It just feels a little gross to like go directly into that, but that's a small complaint in the grand scheme.
Yeah. But with that, not going back, we're now over in Harrenhal again, and Daemon's having another vision, which I don't recognize this woman. He's only been seeing his wives. Like young Rhaenyra, and then the Velaryon girl, who used to ride Vhagar, but I can't remember her name.
Yeah, so when this scene first started, I was thinking it was the prostitute. Because didn't he have a prostitute that looked Targaryen that he really liked?
That was Misari.
Oh, right. You told me that Misari was supposed to have white hair in the books.
Yeah, Visari is supposed to have Valyrian features.
Right. Okay, so, but, I mean, at the end of the sex scene, doesn't he call her mom?
Yeah, that's the thing. So when I was first watching this, I actually thought that this was the previous queen to Viserys before Alicent. I thought it was Viserys' first wife.
Oh,
that was my thought.
Yeah. That'd be a random thing. I mean, it being his mom is still pretty crazy.
I think it being his mom is so much worse.
It being his mom is not the best.
It's not, and that's the one thing that the Targaryens haven't done in the books.
Yeah, my favorite son, she calls him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, to be fair, he is losing his mind.
Yeah, it's still icky. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's icky. Dicks you out. But then he's eating in the... I really don't like, just personally, I don't have any, objective complaints to make But just personally, I really don't like Damon's losing his mind arc.
I mean, first off, I'm getting sick of the Flash, like these visions. They're not adding a whole lot, I feel. Also, I noticed, I just now noticed on his back, there's something up with his back.
Yeah, he had a scar.
I wonder why they put that. I don't recall there being any specific mention of him being injured in that place, but it's not a big deal. But it's just something I noticed.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it much, but yeah, I can't remember anything from season 1 about him.
Maybe he got it in the Stepstones.
Yeah, maybe fighting the crab feeder.
Anyways, he's eating with the Strongs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And he's getting updated on, I believe, what the Blackwoods and the Brackens are doing to each other.
No, not yet. I don't think. I think he's just saying, he just has a lot of confidence in the Blackwoods for some reason.
Right. They're talking about Rook's Rest, and it appears the winds have shifted. That kind of stuff.
Right. Which he says the winds have shifted, but that fight was a draw by pretty much all standards.
A draw at best for the Blacks, and I would say I would lean towards a Green victory, because the Greens still took the castle. The Greens killed a granted, you can very much say that Sunfire is out, and so is Aegon, but they took out Melees and Rhaenys. So, and they were a bigger threat than Aegon in the war. So
sure.
I would definitely say it's a Green victory. A costly one, but victory still.
Yeah, that's right there. Yeah, and the guy starts laying out all the repairs that still need to be made.
Yeah, and he also says he was hoping the Queen would be able to give them the coin, but Daemon says, "Nah, I'll do it." But what money?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if the show has really stated this, but in the books, the Blacks actually really don't have any money. It's almost entirely being funded by Corlys because he's the richest guy in Westeros. But the Lannister gold, the wealth of the High Towers, the wealth of King's Landing, that's all very much in the Greens.
Yeah. So
I do not know where Daemon pulls money out of his ass.
Yeah, I was expecting some sort of explanation for that. I was expecting him to go do something that would I don't know. I don't know what he could do to make money, enough money to fund an army, but I expected something. I didn't expect it to just be a line that he says.
I mean, who knows? Maybe before he left Dragonstone, he took a coin purse.
Yeah, he has one full coin purse.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I've said this before, but in the books, George isn't the best with numbers, and there are legit moments where a guy wins, a competition, and the amount of money he's given would be enough to fund an army.
I don't have anything particular to say about that.
I'm sorry, just more money problems.
Yeah. So then this is also the scene where Daemon basically declares himself king.
Right, because it goes back to the whole kind of, he doesn't want to be called prince, and now he doesn't want to be called king consort.
And then we are back at the Green Council.
The only good council.
A slightly better council. I still get frustrated over here.
The more entertaining council.
It is more entertaining.
Alright. Anyways, we get an update on Aegon. And so now we get to the point where they decide a regent needs to be named. And Alicent stupidly volunteers herself.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what she's thinking. I'm not really sure why she's on the council,
I
to
mean,
be honest.
it's a mystery to us all.
I guess just because the writers need a strong female character to, be prominent on both sides.
But this is like another thing where there's legitimate reasons why these guys wouldn't want Allison to be regent that go beyond her just being a woman. It's the same thing we talked about over with Rhaenyra. Like, when she says, I'll be regent. I have experience being regent when Viserys was sickly. And the guy, and Jasper, based as he is just like, you're a woman.
Yeah, because fundamentally the writers don't realize how stupid they've written the characters to be of Rhaenyra and Allison. So in their minds, they're like, the only possible reason these guys could come up with for them to not be in charge or whatever is that they don't have dicks and balls.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Jasper does say that you were regent in peace times, but we're at war, and it's very different. But she just has her quippy response of like, I'd forgotten we're at war or whatever.
Right. Which I did find it odd that they put sarcastically in the captions, in the subtitles. Like in the subtitles it says in parentheses, sarcastically, I had forgotten. As if I've never seen that before, where like they use
I think
subtitles to tell you the tone, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, I think you're using different subtitles than I am.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I only have one subtitle option on HBO Max.
I got English and English CC.
Oh, I've just got English CC.
Oh, hold on. I need to try English CC.
I think
sarcastically.
English CC is maybe intended for deaf people specifically, whereas English might just be a direct thing. So that might be why. It might be because I'm using English CC.
It also seems like English CC moves the words around. Doesn't matter either way. But with that, so eventually they come to the conclusion that Aemond is the one who should be regent.
Yeah.
And fair enough. I think, obviously, because he's the heir, it makes the most sense for him to be the regent. The only other exception you might go for is the Hand of the King, Kristen Cole, but I wouldn't pick him over it still makes sense. Like, even if you think Kristen Cole might be a better regent, I think it would still be the logical choice to pick Aemond.
Yeah, like if they'd had a competent, like if Otto was still around, he would make a lot of sense. But Cole has not shown himself to be like very kingly, very like the kind of guy you'd want in charge. I mean, he might take charge, but he doesn't seem like the guy you want in charge. So yeah, Aemond is, I think, the best choice they could make here.
Mm-hmm. And Alicent's the only one to voice her displeasure on this. But either way, pretty much, her words mean nothing because she's a dumbass. And then...
Yeah, it's such a weird... I almost feel like they kind of forgot what... I don't know. Alicent's so weird to me. Like, since she's finally fully resolved, she's become a fully resolved character since last episode. Is she... Like, they just kind of made her a bitch. They're like, okay, now she's resolved to go to war, so what does that mean for her character? It means she's just kind of a bitch.
She's going to tell Aegon he's useless.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a very frustrating character. But anyways, after that, we get some updates on the war. The Reach is actually in some turmoil as some of the minor houses choose the blacks, some with the greens and whatnot. More on the Tullys, yada, yada, yada. The one thing that kind of caught my attention was the eventual moment where Aemon says that they need to lock up the gates and keep people from leaving King's Landing.
Yeah.
It
seemed like I feel like I needed more explanation or justification from that command.
Well, the thing is, people are leaving King's Landing, whether it be because of the bad omen from the dragon or because of the lack of food. And I don't get why. And this is kind of something that I think happens in in like the original 4 seasons of Game of Thrones as well, and the books as well. Is why would you want to keep them from leaving?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that you could make some explanations, like there could be good explanations, but yeah, if people are starting to starve to death, honestly, you should maybe be sending people to like different green control areas in order to reduce the strain on King's Landing itself, and have people be more productive for the war effort elsewhere.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
Like, at the very least, like, let the merchants fuck off because they're useless and whatnot. Keep the blacksmiths because you obviously kind of need them. But like, I feel like you could definitely lose a lot of people. Let the whores leave. You don't need the whores.
No, you do need the whores. In times of war, the fellas gotta have fun.
Anyways, as far as like war, what's the word I'm looking for? Information, like just the talk about how things are going on, the stability and all that. That was the only one that I really picked up as not being a huge fan of.
Yeah. But, I can see that. And so in the books, correct me if I'm wrong, Alicent is like not that big of a character, right?
No. Like Alicent, they definitely increased her role in the show. And
to what end? What has the show gained from Alicent being such a big character? Like, they spend this entire council focusing on her emotional reaction to not being chosen as regent. And it's just, like, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, what the fuck is Alicent doing in the show right now? Like, what is her purpose as a character?
She's a victim. That is her purpose. She is the female victim.
Why? What are you doing? Why? It's just like there's real things happening in this scene, and we're focused on Alicent's face as she like freaks out. I hate it.
I mean, I definitely don't like it.
I hate it so much. I gotta go get a drink. All right, so yeah, Alicent is freaking out. She's geeking for no reason. She's pissing me off.
Yeah. Quick question: who frustrates you more, Alicent or Rhaenyra?
Rhaenyra is at least like an important character. I've never questioned Rhaenyra's existence in the story. So I guess Alicent I find slightly more frustrating.
That is fair as well. I think there's like an aspect to Rhaenys. The thing that annoys me about Rhaenys is that Rhaenyra, is that I can get behind her characters. My issue is that I feel like the story is hammering in that she's smarter and better than she is. Like, it's like she feels like I'm being preached to. But I can, if I look past that, there is a character there. There is somewhat of importance. With Alicent, it's the same thing as Rhaenyra, but she's also useless.
Yeah, exactly. So, the next scene,
we got Hugh!
Yeah, Hugh.
And just some more development. Family life is a little rough. They decide that they need to get the fuck out of King's Landing eventually. But sadly, if only they had decided to do it a little bit sooner, Oh, wait, never mind. The next scene after that, unless you have something you want to specifically comment in regards to Hugh and his family.
No. Honestly, they kind of bore me. I'm bored.
Yeah.
Whenever they show Hugh, I'm like, what the fuck are we? What are we doing with this guy? I don't care about this guy. But I'm sure he'll be important later, and I guess it's a nice little glimpse into the life of people in King's Landing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a good kind of vessel for the life of the small folk right now.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a little, then we're back over to the kind of Red Keep, and we see Alicent walking over to Criston Cole and having a little talk with him. Sad that apparently Criston doesn't love her anymore. Which, bitch, don't go acting like you were giving him all your love and affection.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And yeah, she's bitching at Cole for not picking her. And, well, I agree that I thought that Cole's character was the kind of guy who would pick her. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, and here's the thing, because we were talking about how you didn't quite believe Cole being gung-ho on, like, Team Aemond and whatnot. This scene at least tells me that the reason he chose Aemond was because he's scared of Aemond.
That's a fair read on it. Yeah, he does say we've given the war to the dragons. He's like, I guess he's fully realized the powers at play here.
And what's interesting, and I actually kind of like this because Criston is one of the few people who has seen battle despite all the years of peace, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that was the reason Rhaenyra picked him to be in the Kingsguard. So he has experience. He's seen the horrors of war. And this, I'm not going to say it broke him, but it obviously scared him. And that's just kind of a very interesting thing. You have a very experienced killer, soldier, fighter, who's seen his fair share of battle, and this scares him.
Yeah. Which, now looking back on the episode from this scene, the way Cole's portrayed is actually, like, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had forgotten about this scene, but yeah, they show how kind of somber and, like, I guess scared he is of what the future may hold throughout the episode.
Yeah, and she's still, like, pissy after Cole, like, says all that and then turns away. She like calls him back and says, "Have you cast me aside?" And Cole, I think, says something that I think is, like, a genuine, like, I don't know how to explain it, but when he says, like, "Have I not spared you?" There's, like, legit a lot of truth to that. Because
for sure,
this is going to get ugly before it gets pretty.
Yeah, and it's like, what are Alicent's policy plans? You know? Like, why does she want the power so bad? What does she intend to do?
Well, she thinks she's smarter than she actually is, and I bet you even though she's hardened, I guarantee you it's going to come up again. She doesn't want Rhaenyra to die. She still thinks there's a way for this to end with Rhaenyra and everyone alive.
Oh yeah, there's no way she doesn't flip-flop again. Her character, what would her character be if she wasn't just a pancake that keeps getting flipped back and forth?
Anyways, right after that fairly decent scene, even though Alicent, we see that Hugh and his family are too late to get out of King's Landing. If they had decided to leave just 1 minute sooner, they would have been out. But they lock the gates to keep all the starving small folk inside and restless, and most likely start a rebellion.
Yeah.
Or riots at the very least.
Yeah, riots are a fun thing. Yeah. Riots are a really cool, fun thing to have right on your front doorstep.
I mean, to be fair, so long as they're mostly peaceful, it shouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, mostly peaceful protest. The Red Keep burns down in the background.
Alright, but so that scene's just telling us, these actions have been implemented, and now we're over at the twins.
Which I do want to say, does freaking Hugh's daughter look like she's dead in this scene?
She doesn't look like she's brimming with health.
Yeah, she's having a bad time. She's not having a good time here at the riots, at the mostly peaceful protests.
I mean, those aren't exactly the best places to be when you're sick.
No. Well, there's so many COVID jokes to be made there.
But anyways, back over at the Twins, we see Jace trading with the Freys. And like I said, this didn't take place in the books, but overall, I felt this was a good scene.
I agree. He was far more competent than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this show is severely lacking in just genuinely competent characters that the show thinks is competent, and then the character actually is competent. And I think Jace and Eamon might be the only two. And so getting to see both of them just do good, be good leaders, make smart decisions, was pretty satisfying. There was some catharsis in this episode.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out that Jace flew over to the Riverlands, hung around for probably an hour, and got more Riverlands to side with his mom than Damon has in all the time he spent in Harrenhal.
Yeah, for real though, they need to explain what the fuck Damon has been up to. Because if he's been splitting wood this whole time, that's insane.
But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the scene between Jace and the Freys. Gives him something to do, gets some more development. I'll always enjoy that. And then we're back over with Damon at Harrenhal, just like you said, splitting some wood.
Yeah.
Which
the most productive thing he could be doing right now, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I'll say, though, Damon has always struck me as someone who's not afraid to get his hands dirty. This doesn't feel like Damon, though, you know? Splitting wood, fixing, helping with the construction. I don't know. Damon strikes me as, definitely a guy who would get into a fight and be on the front lines, but manual labor in this sense. To a point where he's blistering his hands.
Yeah, and again, it's there's so many things he could be doing right now.
That would be better.
Firewood. Anybody, there's plenty of workers there by the looks of it. Seems like there's plenty of people to be splitting wood. Why are you not riding around on your dragon fucking rallying Riverlands people?
Yeah, there's tons of lords. You can treat with all of them. Talk. Jace did it in 1 hour. You've been here for days.
Yeah, Damon could have done that. There's no reason Damon couldn't have already have gone to the Freys.
None at all. Because Damon has been closer to the Freys.
He's been closer. And for fucking weeks, I think now.
But getting back to the scene that we're at, eventually he starts talking with Alice. And I don't remember much of this. I think it's mostly finally news has been reached about what the Blackwoods have been doing, and she's very critical of Damon.
No, this is her predicting the future. Or this is her having knowledge that she couldn't have, I think. Where she's, being critical of how he dealt with the Blackwoods Bracken situation. And I also feel is this a scene where Damon just straight up says that he's planning on taking King's Landing himself?
He seems... I think so. Yeah. So there's also this kind of crazy... hold on, what did she say? And once again, in the name of power, it's the weak and the women who must endure.
Yeah, that line made me physically cringe.
So
that line made me cringe so hard.
I mean, I feel it's weird because you literally just need to cut out the women. Like, in the pursuit of power, it's the weak who must endure. Because, let's face it, this is a situation where, like, you can be a man and be weak, and you can be a woman and be weak. So to specifically say...
Yeah, and by weak, what they mean is children. They mean women and children. They don't... Like, I don't think they mean weak. Because they don't include... I don't think they intend to include men in that at all.
Well, last I checked, there are some kids who are boys.
Yeah, but not men.
Maybe, but it's definitely a bit of an odd thing to say at that moment. Or I think because this is kind of like talking about... Shit, I'm actually starting to have a heat stroke with how it is in here. Sorry, but
yeah, she's talking about whatever the Blackwoods are doing to the Brackens.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I guess, they're going and killing all the women and children or some shit.
Burning their houses, taking everything they have.
Yeah. And it's like yeah, during war, the women and children don't have it great. But neither do the men who are actively fighting.
Yeah, like
they're not loving life either.
I don't think there's a single war in history where the female body count or even the children body count is equivalent to the men body count.
No, I don't think that's ever happened. Maybe in like some Viking raids. There might be some Viking raids. But even then, probably not.
Yeah, but I'm thinking more for war in general rather than battles and raids.
Yeah, I just thought of Viking raids because this situation seems kind of Viking raid-like. Mm-hmm. They're just going in and burning down houses, raping and pillaging, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably. It definitely doesn't sound like the most honorable thing to do. Though I will say, in these kinds of times... Well, no, because the Riverlands in this setting is, very dangerous. So you can't really go anywhere to get to safety.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, though, I just don't have a whole lot to say about this particular scene. It just feels... I don't think there's much to it.
No, I think there's quite a bit to it. Like I said, we get Daemon explicitly lays out his plan to take King's Landing. We also get a little bit of some more of the parallels between Daemon and Aemon, as well as Daemon outright expressing that he doesn't like Aemon. He thinks that he's like a fucking psychopath, which is rich coming from Daemon, as he calls him out for saying. And then there's the whole Bracken Blackwoods conversation. I think this scene has a decent amount of content, and it's Daemon's not actively losing his mind during this. So I don't find it so irritating to watch.
I guess, but a part of me just feels like this is just things, for the most part, we already knew. There was already kind of a strong implication that Daemon is more out for himself than for Rhaenyra. We also already knew that Daemon does not like Aemon.
Yeah, but...
So I think my issue is that this feels like we're treading over water already crossed.
Maybe.
You are right, though. The fact that he's kind of called out a bit on it, for example, when he's saying Aemon, is crazy, and Alice calls him, pot calling the kettle black. So there's a bit more meat to it than just repeating and regurgitating what has already taken place. But I don't know. It's a scene that didn't exactly leave an impression on me.
Yeah. Which I'll also say, I assume Daemon's gonna fuck Alice at some point, so all of their scenes, I'm assuming, are just kind of part of developing their relationship for later.
I mean, to be fair, if they do fuck, which I don't know, if they do, at least they are actually getting development to it. Because so far, a lot of the relationships that we do get have fuck it all.
Yeah, for real, Damon and Alice have had some of the most screen time of any quote unquote couples in the show.
As far as like the only exception is probably Corley's and Rainey's, but they were married; they don't count.
Yeah, Corley's and Rainey's had a weird amount of one-on-one scenes, considering, like, I don't know how established and inconsequential their relationship was. Like, inconsequential is not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like, there wasn't any relationship development in any of their interactions because they were already well married and stuff. But the only other relationship I would think that's had a similar amount of attention given is Damon and Rhaenyra in season 1.
Yeah,
they had quite a bit,
and that's to show how fucked up it is, or at least I hope. I hope you. Do you think that the writers know that it's a fucked up relationship? I think they do, right?
I think they might have forgot. I think they knew in season 1, but I think they might have forgot. Well, they do make the comment. Alice makes the comment about like him bouncing Rhaenyra on his knee.
All right, so at the very least, I'm happy to know that the writers know that it's a bad relationship. Because there's a lot of people online who don't get that.
Really?
It's a disturbing amount. Honestly, yeah. Anyways, but the very next scene we have over at Driftmark, I presume, with Corlys and Bela. And I think it's handled well until the end. We have Corlys. Really? It's showing Corlys like really getting frustrated with everything that he's done with supporting the Blacks. And now we're at like the most he could really ever give. His wife was lost. Like, it's perfectly understandable for me that he is just done and wants to get the fuck out. I think he should have wanted to get the fuck out a lot sooner, but it's like I'm happy to see him finally realize he should get out while he can. Well, should, quote unquote.
I feel like for like the past, I feel like since the proper like breakup happened, where they went to Dragonstone, the Blacks went to Dragonstone, he's been fairly, I don't know, against it compared to like Rhaenys was kind of dragging him along. Was kind of my impression.
Maybe a little bit, but I don't know.
Like he never seemed as enthusiastic to support the Blacks as Rhaenys did.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't really recall him, like, he wasn't as enthusiastic as Rhaenys, but I don't really recall him voicing his displeasure that much. Like, I feel like the last time he was really angry with Rhaenyra was, like, when she was gone because she was in King's Landing.
Yeah, he was definitely mad about that. But, I don't know, weren't like, all of their scenes together just him being, like, complaining about Rhaenyra? I feel like that was a lot of the content of their scenes together.
I'm kind of remember. I remember the Corlys and Rhaenys talking about who should inherit Driftmark.
Right, and he's bitching about how all of his grandchildren are bastards.
He's not even bitching about that. He's bitching because none of them know how to sail.
Right. But I feel like the deeper meaning there is that they're not what they say.
Well, because Rhaena's not a bastard.
Is Rhaena the one he's talking to? Right? No, that's Bela.
That's Bela. So her sister.
Right, but they're women.
Well, you say that, but remember what he does at the end of the scene?
Yeah, but Bela's a bad bitch.
But, like...
Remember?
Yeah, she's a bad bitch. But it's frustrating to me because Corlys, the reason he didn't want Joffrey or Rhaena, Joffrey because he was probably a bit too young, but Rhaena because, like, she doesn't know the sea and whatnot. Bela, as far as we know, knows fucking all about sea life and sailing as well. So it's just like, it's again, Corlys suffers from both seasons to have his motivations change on a dime. and his actions going against them.
No, because Bela, remember, she's a strong woman. Don't you see that? Don't you see how that...
Just shut the fuck up, please.
She can
shut
she can have drift marks because she's a strong woman.
I will mute you.
No, yeah, I see what you mean though, because they at the very least you would have hoped that they would have come together as a writing team and like decided on what Corley's opinion on the whole bastard situation is going to be, and on the secession of Driftmark whole thing. You'd think they would at least like come together and be like, all right, this is his stance, and we're sticking to that. But no, there has been a lot of inconsistency and flip flop there.
Yeah, and also he was perfectly fine with Luke inheriting, and I'm pretty damn sure he didn't know shit about sailing. It's just Corley's, I feel, is one of the most mishandled characters. Not the most. I think Alicent is probably the most mishandled. Corley's is close for me.
Yeah, if I was making like a tier list, there'd be a lot of characters in that.
Anyways, the next scene we have...
Wait. So then the very end is when she says he offers her to take over Driftmark, and she says, "I'm blood and fire. Driftmark must pass the Salton Sea."
Which, who is that bitch?
Salton Sea. There's no Salton Sea.
They're all dead.
There is no Salton Sea to pass it to. That's.
Is she going to?
He offered it to you.
It's not a good line in any stretch of the imagination. I mean, technically there is some Salton Sea, but yeah. With that though, the next scene we have is if I remember correctly, I remember enjoying it, but talking about it with you will probably make me hate it. But Rhaenyra admits fault.
He does admit fault.
And she pretty much tells, I think it's Sir Alan?
No, that doesn't sound right. Because Sir Alan is the Valyrian sailor guy.
You're right. Alan of Hull.
I mean, there could be multiple Allens. George
he likes to kind of repeat the words. I think they said his name at the beginning. But I think maybe Adric or something. I don't fucking know. But anyways, Alfred, that's it.
Alfred.
But anyways, she finally admits fault and decides to send him off to Harrenhal to make sure that Daemon is working in her interest. And I'll be honest, Alfred's been right a lot of the times, but the fuck is he going to do?
Yeah, he does. He's not going to have any sway over Daemon. It's weird because she knows she can persuade Daemon. She talks to her son about how he can't persuade Daemon. So it's like, what the fuck is Alfred? Why would Daemon listen to Alfred?
Maybe she's kind of sending Alfred just kind of, not to be a spy per se, but just kind of maybe go there in person, see what's going on, and then give her an update through ravens.
Yeah, or maybe to just go be a thorn in Daemon's side.
Just be a little gnat in his ear, just kind of don't forget about the queen, don't forget about the queen.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'd be pretty pissed if I was Alfred. This is a shitty ass task she was dumped on him.
To be fair, he's not happy about it. He's pretty much says you're removing me from the council.
Right. For sure.
But clearly, he sticks with it though, and he's off. So we'll probably get some update on that in a later episode.
Yep. And oh joy, back to Daemon losing his mind.
we don't need half of these, I feel.
Well, this one at least has some plot development.
Yeah.
He gets woken up in the middle of the night, which it seems like Sir Simon should have kind of prepped him a little more for what he was about to
walk in on.
Because yeah, he thought he was about to walk in on people like bending the knee to him.
To be fair, I doubt they told him, like, hey, I think they probably just showed up and said, we need to speak to Damon.
Yeah, but they must have
not looked happy.
Insisted. Yeah, they must have, like, because he probably didn't go, oh, okay, let me go wake Damon up. He probably went, like, Damon's asleep, I can wait till morning. And then they probably went, like, Damon, I don't know, the Blackwoods are doing some crazy shit.
The Blackwoods are really fucking shit around.
Yeah.
Very interesting that all these River Lords were able to arrive at the same time, but that's not that big deal one way or another. Though a part of me does kind of wonder if the River Lords would be as upset as they are about what the Blackwoods have been doing.
Well, and how would they possibly know that Damon told them to do that?
I get the feeling...
I thought that was the whole point of him saying, like, there's certain things a king can't
be seen doing. Yeah, there's definitely that aspect to it, but at the same time, I put that more on Damon being too stupid to realize, like, everyone would have known that you've been buddying up with the Blackwoods. So, and then it becomes a best case scenario. It's a separate situation where you're their boss, and when you're the boss, everything is your fault.
Is Damon supposed to be just, like, completely incompetent?
I mean, he's not coming off as competent.
I can't get, because there are times where he comes off as, like, the show tries to convince you that he's hyper competent, like when he kills the crab feeder. Right? So, like, there are times where Damon is competent, but I just, like, thinking back through the show, and, like, they kind of made it seem like he was a good leader of the Gold Cloaks. I feel like the show, I don't know, I feel like the show had kind of, like, made him seem competent.
So I'm actually starting to realize, I think all of these nobles are actually Brackens.
Are they all Brackens?
I think so, because one of them says that that the Blackwoods were stealing their livestock and crops. The livestock was stolen, and our peasants put to the sword. They pursued the women and the children. I think these are all Brackens, then. Okay, so if they're all Brackens...
Damon says they would not see reason, not you would not see reason. Right? Like, he talks about the Brackens as if they're not there.
Yeah. So... obviously, the Blackwoods wouldn't have gone stealing livestock from anyone other than the Brackens, though. So maybe only one of them's a Bracken?
I think none of them are Brackens. I think they're just random lords that, like, heard what was happening and got pissed off.
Maybe. It's hard to tell, because I can't make out any of their sigils because the scene's too dark.
They're not, like, wearing obvious colors.
And it doesn't help that every time I fucking pause, for some reason, Max thinks everything needs to go dark.
Yeah, Max thinks that I'm a night owl. Every time I pause.
But I will say, a part of me, like, wonders, I guess it's not too far-fetched that the nobility of the other houses would have been horrified with what they saw. But at the same time, this is war. It's not like this doesn't happen in every single instance of war.
Well, and they know the Brackens and the Blackwoods relationship. Like they've already had huge battles.
Yeah, plenty.
So one of them, like, I think it's a stretch for them to trace this back to Damon. Like, I think Damon is right in saying that when he said there's certain things that a king cannot be seen doing. I think that like just having the Blackwoods go and attack the Brackens by themselves, there's no reason for a Riverlord to be like, oh, fucking Daemon.
Yeah. I will say, though, the balls on these nobles. Well, I say that, but Daemon's been a little prissy-ass bitch this entire time. But to just show up to the guy and say, kind of, fuck off, we're not going to fight for a tyrant and leave, dragon or no, like, God, Daemon, you're just making yourself... The simplest solution was literally just to ride your dragon, take out the Brackens, and use that to kind of, like, get everyone on your side. This has been a colossal failure, and it's so weird because none of this is in the books.
Yeah, I'm extremely curious to see where it goes, knowing that it's not in the books, because it seems like Daemon's just like completely screwing everything up.
Daemon is his own worst enemy.
Yeah. So I won't. It would be a lie to say I'm excited to see where that plot line goes, but I am mildly curious.
After that, we see Rhaenyra at Dragonstone. We see the spy being snuck into King's Landing. Nothing big to comment. Riders all around.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, I think the next important thing... Yeah, it cuts back to Corlys for a few seconds as he looks at the hand of the pin. Which, yeah, no need to comment on that. Alright, so I think the next scene of importance is Aemon looking at the Iron Throne. And then Helena showing up and pretty much asking him, was it worth it?
Yeah, I mean...
It's pretty much...
I guess it's kind of... Yeah, that's it. You just described the scene. That's what happens.
Yeah, it's pretty much just hammering into us just how ambitious Aemon is. He pretty much at this point sees himself as the next king of Westeros.
Right. Which I guess is just another parallel line between him and Daemon.
Mm-hmm. All right, and we have Alicent attempting to finally be a decent mother. Little late, bitch.
Yeah, I mean... Is she really... I mean, what does she do? What does she do motherly here?
She's keeping an eye on her sickly, dying son. I say sickly, crippled son.
Yeah, but... What are you gonna do? I don't. I'm struggling to give a shit.
But at least Aegon says mummy right before she leaves.
He does say mummy, but she doesn't listen. More top tier mother activity from Alicent.
To be fair, she probably didn't hear. Alrighty, so the final scene, we have Jace talking to Rhaenyra.
Yeah, and this, I think this scene was pretty good.
Yeah, because she kind of vents about some of the issues she's been having, and I think for the most part, especially because the previous scene, she admitted fault, which is always kind of nice when you have a very faulty character.
Right. That is nice. She shows some growth this episode. Good for her. I do think that the whole "what book are you reading? I hope you do not mean to use her as an example" thing is kind of weird.
Yeah, they're talking about Visenya, and I don't know why. Visenya was one of the sister wives to Aegon the Conqueror. And I do not know, because the book says that she was the first one to write Vhagar, which is correct. She was the original writer of Vhagar.
Damn, Vagar is that old?
Yes, Vagar is old.
Yeah, and well, I was expecting when Jay said, "I hope you're not planning on using her as an example," and she said, "Why not?" I was expecting him to like give a specific historical anecdote.
Well, like, because Aegon's other sister wife, what's her name? Because you have Senya. I think it's Rhaenyra actually. I think Rhaenys. Okay, it's Rhaenys. So his other sister wife actually died in the conquest. So it would make she went over to Dorne, and Dorne shot her dragon out of the sky with a scorpion. I think, or an arrow hit the dragon in the eye, something along those lines. But yeah, so that would make sense because she kind of died. But Visenya, I think she dies of old age.
Well, that's the ones you want to learn from. You want to learn from the ones that died from old age, not the ones that got their fucking dragon shot.
Yeah. So I do not know why they bring up Visenya.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about history or anything like that. But my issue is that Jace's complaint about her reading a history book is it happened a long time ago. What the fuck does that mean, dumbass? Like, people in modern day can often take that kind of view of history, but it makes some sense why people might think that way because there's been so much technological development in the past 200 years. So people can tend to like look at history as like an archaic time that like things are completely different. But the technological development between when she's reading the book or like whatever time period that book is and now is like non-existent. Like any advice or information in that book would be just as relevant as when it was written.
Exactly. They've been stuck in the medieval times for thousands of years.
Yeah, so it's like, why? What a weird complaint to raise about reading history.
Yeah.
I feel like people in this world just wouldn't even conceptualize history that way.
Yeah,
they would just think of history as like an anecdote to learn from.
Maybe. But, he's still young. He's still kind of brash, so it's not super crazy that he does. But also, he's shown to be like a fairly learned guy who who paid a lot of attention to his studies. So it does strike me a little odd that he would be the kind of guy to be like, it happened a long time ago. But anyways, aside from that specific moment, I feel like the rest of the scene, like you said, pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully I don't remember anything else I hate.
But they kind of go a little bit back and forth, and eventually they get onto the topic of they have dragons, but they don't have enough riders. So where can they look for dragon riders?
Which I think it's a well done like realization for them to come to. Like where it wouldn't be intuitive for them to think like, oh, we should look for people with Targaryen blood that aren't necessarily directly tied to a Targaryen. So, very well done.
Yeah,
I like this.
More distant relations and whatnot.
Which, I mean, I guess, does Dragonstone just have, like, tons of genealogies? Just keep that shit on record?
Well, Westeros in general tends to do pretty well, like lore-wise speaking, well of like laying out the parentage and family trees of all major families, and the Targaryens would most definitely have the most in-depth of any of the families.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I guess I was thinking that they were going to be looking for people who like just anybody, but I guess you could only trace it through major families that way.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so like overall though, I have to say, like the scene was good, but this episode, like many of the others, has been frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only consistent good thing about this episode was Jace and Cole.
Jason Boulder. I don't have any complaints about Eamon. I mean, the decision to lock up the city's weird, for sure. But other than that, I think Eamon he didn't do much this episode other than take up Regency.
Yeah, Alicent was very frustrating. Damon's been frustrating as well. This is probably the episode where Rhaenyra was the least frustrating. Like she was still frustrating, but
she did have some growth in a positive direction. That does give me hope that the writers realize at least some modicum of how stupid she's been. So that's nice. I always appreciate that. I did want to ask, we talked about it very briefly earlier, but so Vermithor is a big dragon.
Fairly big, yeah.
But not like Vhagar big.
Not Vhagar big. Vermithor is the second largest dragon alive in the series right now.
So bigger than Melee's.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know. And I mean, I guess they're planning on just popping some new rider on Silver Lane.
Yeah, I think they're going to try and plop someone on all the dragons.
Right.
But yeah, but to put it in perspective, remember how I said like the first mention of Melee's and Caraxes was like 75, 72?
Yes.
Vermithor was born in 34.
So 50 years earlier? Is that what you're saying?
40.
Or not even 40. Yeah.
So 40 years older than the biggest dragon the Blacks have.
That isn't as much older as I would have guessed.
To be fair, 40 years is a lot.
Yeah, but Vhagar from fucking... How old's Vhagar? He's like... How long ago was Aegon?
Vhagar was 52 BC.
Have the Targaryens only been in charge for like a little over 100 years at this point?
At this point, yes. Because right now it's like 120 AC, I think, or like 130 AC.
I'll be honest. When you were saying 72 and stuff, I was assuming you were just cutting out the numbers that went before that for brevity's sake. I didn't realize you meant like literally just 72.
Yeah, no, so the Targaryens have only been in power at this moment for about 130 years. And Vhagar was born 50 years before the conquest. So they would be 130, 180 years old.
Okay. That puts things in perspective. I guess I forgot how early this show is set.
Well, Westeros itself, the original series, it was only 300 years after Aegon's conquest.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang, timeline's a lot shorter than I thought it was.
Well, there's a lot before and not nearly as much after. I was going to say there was a lot after, but that was just the original show and books. But there is a lot of history, like you have the Age of Heroes, but I won't bore you with that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think that about does it for this episode then.
I think so as well. As always, thank you so much, DJ Fella, for having these conversations and letting us kind of really go in depth of it, scene by scene. And to everyone who made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you don't want to miss anything else to come from this channel. Be safe, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.